Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm Corey. I'm going to be helping today.
Oh, thanks, Corey. That's great.
Um, First of all, Kate or Catherine?
Please, Kate's good.
Okay, good. Oh, I see your slides.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure everything out. What
Okay.
else? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, so I'm here to help. I can stay on stage or I can remove myself. I'm happy to let you know when there's questions in the chat. You tell me what you need and I'm here to do that.
Thank you so much, Corey. That's so great. I really appreciate it. You're awesome. Do you have any advice, like anything I should know as a speaker? Any tips?
Um,
What have you seen that works well or don't
oh,
do that?
I think if you could prompt folks to be sharing in the chat,
Hmm.
that tends to really help. My experience is that our group in general, like the CSTA group on Hopin, is pretty
Hmm.
good at engaging in the chat. So
Great.
feel free to prompt and then pause and respond if you would like to.
Okay, awesome. Great. I will do that. I'll do my best to do that.
Okay. Oh, and I am happy to introduce you if you would like me to.
Um,
Or you can introduce yourself. That's fine too.
I can introduce myself. No worries.
Okay, good. Then I'll let you be. Do you want me to let you know when there's questions in the chat, or are you comfortable kind of watching that as you go?
I'll try to watch it, but feel free
Okay.
to jump in if you notice that I'm missing stuff. Definitely empower you to let me
Okay.
know.
All right. I will do that then. Any questions you have for me? Otherwise, I'll jump off and just come up. Oh, I see you did a poll question.
I'm
Great.
trying to make a poll. How does that look on your end?
It says you posted it and asked what do you teach, and then I'm clicking either computer science or non-computer science.
Okay, and then when I click show polls, can you see the results?
Yes, yep, I see the results now. So
Great.
yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right, that's exciting. I'm glad that works. Yeah. All right, I'm good to go.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Corey.
You're welcome. Okay, then I'm going to jump off the stage, but if you need something, just holler. I'm going to be here the whole time.
Okay. Thanks. Just playing around with screen share a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's the best one. Great. People are coming in. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Joe. Oh, great. Welcome, welcome. Oh, we've got a full room. This is great. Okay. Excellent. All right, I'll get started in a moment, but feel free to use the chat to say hello and welcome people back from their break. That's great, Rachel. What are you cooking? All right. Well, it's about time to start. So I think I'll get started. I understand that we're coming off of a short break. Yeah. So it's Definitely, people are having some food while we're doing this talk, so that's totally okay. But in the spirit of an unconference, I really encourage you to stay close and um, enter chats in the chat and say hello and greet people. This talk is one where I'm going to be sharing some resources and some pedagogy that I've seen work in classrooms and not work in classrooms. But I'm really hoping to hear from you. I'm going to ask you guys some questions I'd like you to be able to write answers to in the chat. And to start us off, I've got a poll that, I'm still learning this platform, but I've got a poll up asking you what you teach. I'm curious to see how many computer science teachers we have in the house and how many non-computer science teachers we have in the house. I'm going to try to resource share for everybody. So let's give people one more minute to join, and then while we wait, feel free to jump in the chat and put in a greeting. Say hello to everybody. Thanks, Lisa. That's great. Thanks for sharing. Thanks, Mary. All right, well, let's get started. So we're going to start this talk. It's called Everyday AI, Integrating AI into Middle School Content Areas. I'm presenting, you can call me Kate, and I'm presenting work that's been part of a research project called Everyday AI that's funded by the NSF. And the principal investigators for the project are Helen Zhang and Irene Lee. They've been leading this project with me for a couple of years now. And before I start, I just want to say a little bit about myself. I'm an education researcher at the MIT STEP Lab. STEP stands for Teacher Scheller Education Program. And what we do is design learning experiences, help teachers learn to teach, and we try to create tools and resources and guides for students and teachers to learn more, not just about computer science, but creative thinking and problem solving. So I'm excited to be here. I was here in the morning and it was fantastic to hear everybody, and I'm glad to see some familiar faces in the chat. Before I became an education researcher, I'm actually pretty green. I just got my degree last year. Before I worked my PhD, I was a classroom teacher, science and special education for 10 years. I taught in New York City and Pittsburgh and New Jersey. Sorry, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. So I'm coming into this conference really excited to share teaching tools and resources that I wish I'd had when I was a teacher. But I just want to, thanks, Rachel. I just wanted to open by making it really clear that one thing that's unique about this talk is we're really focusing on artificial intelligence, which is something that is founded and sits very well within computer science, but it also affords some integration or cross-departmental work, because as we know, artificial intelligence, it's certainly built within the computer science realm, but it trespasses into areas that involve society. And we'll talk a little bit about societal implications and ways that you might focus on AI from the perspective of ethics in AI and bias. So that'll be a part that I'll be focusing on as well in this talk. Just some logistics. I just want to make sure you're encouraged to take notes. Make sure you find the note document. I found mine in the previous session to be incredibly valuable. Thank you for all those links. And I'm going to do my best to stop and pause frequently to check the chat. So feel free to put questions in there. Feel free to interrupt me. Yeah, great. So let me just say a few words about the materials that I'll be sharing. This is a presentation of a curriculum that we've tested and shown a strong efficacy for. This is called the Daily Curriculum. It's centered on developing AI literacy for middle school students, and it's open source, so you can take a look at this. I'll put it in the resource document so you can look through the materials. Everything I'm going to be sharing will be from this open source, online, accessible resource. But I do want to say that it is something that we're still gathering data on this tool, on this curriculum now. So we do have a more up-to-date version available for you. So if you look at the link that I'm going to put in the notes after this talk, if you take a look at that and decide, wow, I'd really love to see the most up-to-date version, great. Feel free to send me an email and I'll send you the most up-to-date materials. This was developed in partnership with educators and youth-serving organizations across the country. We've worked very hard to make sure that this is a curriculum that was developed with these leaders and communities, because we want to make sure that the lessons are accessible, inclusive, and equitable for a diverse population of learners. We want to make sure that people who've been historically marginalized from the development of artificial intelligence and machine learning tools are brought into the center, and that this curriculum empowers diverse learners to be engaged in that community moving forward. And as I said, that curriculum is just one part of this larger project called Everyday AI, where we're also focusing on professional development, or how to help teachers prepare to teach AI and bring AI into their classrooms. I'm a big part of the research component, and then we're also building some tools for AI education that I'll share today, all centered around the idea of making this something that's accessible to middle school students and something that's possible to integrate. So I'll just open by asking you to say a little bit about yourself in the chat. Then I'm going to give you an example of how we introduce what artificial intelligence is to middle schoolers. And I'll try to do that, treating you as middle schoolers, so you can experience how we've worked hard to make it something that's accessible and meaningful for students. And then we're going to have a moment where I'd love to hear how you are teaching AI in your classroom, if you are, or if not, what questions you have, how do you want to get started? I'm also going to give you some preliminary findings from a qualitative analysis from some interviews that we've been doing periodically, sometimes weekly, sometimes semi-monthly, with middle school teachers across the country in Florida and Chicago and Richmond, who've been telling us about their experiences teaching AI in their computer science classes and in their non-computer science classes. So I'll be sharing some findings from teachers who are teaching English, who are teaching civics, who are teaching and science. And then we'll close, and I'd love to hear what you're excited about trying at the end of the talk. Are there any questions before I start? Put them in the chat. So please take a moment to put a little bit about yourself in the room. That's really helpful for me to know a little bit about who's here and what you're interested in, what you're trying in your classroom. So let's see. Let me just take a look at the chat. Oh, and I just was looking at the chat and noticed that I have the ability to send people into breakout rooms. That's exciting. Okay, maybe I'll try to get us into breakout rooms shortly. That's great. Well, welcome to everybody. I see Lisa is teaching Spanish and computer science. Mary from Indianapolis is tech ed, 7th and 8th grade. That's great. Computer science teacher Suzanne is 6th and 8th grade. Got a robotics teacher in the house. This is great. Thank you so much for putting this information about what you teach in the class in the chat. So how do we teach AI? What is it, and how do we teach this to middle schoolers? Here's an example of some things that we do to break AI down for middle schoolers. So we start with asking them, what does artificial intelligence make you think of? And the first thing they usually say is robots. But we remind them that actually artificial intelligence is something that they see every day. They can see the output or predictions from artificial intelligence in YouTube, in software that finishes your sentences for you as you complete texts or messages. Google searches, Instagram, and TikTok all use different types of artificial intelligence. We also give them a definition. This is our working definition. We're feeling pretty confident about this, but we are making some tweaks. So feel free to reach out to me and email me if you'd like our final version of this definition. We generally give students something concrete that they can work with, and we tell students that AI makes computers perform intelligent tasks. It helps them recognize things, which is a process that involves identification and prediction. It helps them understand them. Understanding is usually something that involves classifying them and associating that class with some training data. And we talk to them about how it helps AI makes decisions about things, so that this is also referencing the ability that AI has to classify things. We introduce this, or let me say that again, we break this down into the 3 parts of machine learning. We say that AI is made up of machine learning tools, and machine learning uses a data set, a learning algorithm, and a prediction. And we walk them through each part. We ask them what they think a data set is. And then we tell them that a data set is a collection of curated data. Often students think that data is numbers, like measurements or of temperature or length or distance or counts of people or things. And that's of course true, but there's also other types of data like sound, music, video, images. It's important to let students know that this can also be data, because it helps them later understand some of the ways that AI can use information about human behavior to make predictions. Then we talk about learning algorithms with students, and we talk about how learning algorithms can be used to make predictions. In our curriculum, we spend a lot of time on algorithms and predictions. There's a lesson on algorithms and how they are designed, and then we also have a lesson that helps students understand predictions. But let's jump quickly to trying some examples. So we usually play this game with students, and we first start by giving them some real world examples. Let's think about Instagram. How does Instagram make predictions? I'm going to put that to you. Can you put this in the chat? What kind of predictions do you guys think Instagram makes? Yeah, prediction about whether somebody's your friend. Which friends to show you first. When a user will interact. Yeah, advertising, what advertising would be appealing for you, how long you will interact. This is great. And you'd be surprised at how your students are aware of these ways that Instagram makes predictions about them, even though they might not be comfortable with the word prediction. That might be a vocabulary word that you want to make very clear to them. But usually we tell students that Instagram makes predictions about what you're going to click on. Then it makes that prediction using a learning algorithm. What data set do you think Instagram uses to make these predictions? We asked, I'll put that to you too. What data do you think Instagram uses? Yeah, their user data, their activity. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Corey. Yeah, it's past clicks, brands that you follow, and people that like you or click on your content. And they also, the text that you write into captions is also data that can be used to inform the learning algorithm, which then makes predictions about what you're going to click on next. We also talk about email spam filters. Students that we've worked with don't really use email, so we talk a little bit about this, but it's much more relevant to talk about TikTok these days. We say that there's a spam filter, of course, that allows email to be classified as spam or not. That's informed by a learning algorithm that uses a data set that is informed by past emails that you have labeled as something that trains the machine learning tool. And then your email also reads the text of your emails to help classify what type of email it is. And we encourage using these real world examples, things that students have experienced so they can understand some of the mechanics behind what they're experiencing in their daily life. And then we play a game with them, AI or not. And I'm going to play this game with you too. We start with a picture and we ask them, is this AI or not? Go ahead and put in the chat. Do you think a toaster uses AI or not? I'm getting a lot of no's. I usually get no's too when I run this activity. There's a few students who jump in and say, well, you could have it use AI. Yeah, Mary says yes. Mary, do you want to say a little bit about why you said yes? You can, I think you can unmute yourself and share. Hi, Mary.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. I think once the toast is done, based on the input, it will ring the bell and tell you it's done.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. So that uses a sensor to detect how cooked the toast is then, I guess. Is that a fair characterization of what you're saying?
That's correct. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. So I really appreciate you saying that because it's nice to be able to address this at the top. AI uses sensors to detect the world around it, but AI is not defined by sensors. AI uses the data from its sensors to make predictions. So to build on what you're saying, Mary, an AI, a toaster, might be able to predict when you might want to make toast throughout the day based on your past toast behavior, or it might be able to predict something like the type of coloring or burn you want on your toast based on past preferences you've had for your toast. Does that make sense? I hope so. But a toaster that we know and love today doesn't use AI. What about a robot? And notice here that the robot has a remote control that you would use to tell the robot to turn left or right. Do you think this robot uses AI? Paul's saying no. Getting a lot of no's. Can I get somebody to jump on the call or put in the chat? Why are you saying no? It's a robot. Wouldn't that use AI? Lots of students think robots have AI. Rachel says, no, the human is the one making the decision. Suzanne says it's controlled, not trained. And Erin adds, it's dependent upon the remote. All of those are great answers. That's absolutely right. The robot isn't using AI because it's not using a learning algorithm to make predictions about its movement. It's not autonomous or independent of the remote. Oh, and Corey's giving us a tip. Please click on the purple share audio and video if you'd like to join Kate. Yeah, please feel free to jump in. This is a high participation presentation. What about this? This is a Google car that can drive itself around like a track. Also referred to lovingly as a self-driving car. Does this use AI? Yeah, I sure hope so, says Corey. Yeah, so one thing that we do in this game is we ask students to remember what we just told them about the 3 parts of machine learning. We ask them to think, ask themselves over and over again, we ask them to think, does this have a data set? And does it make a prediction? Right, so they think back to that moment where earlier where we gave them examples of data sets and told them what a data set was. And we asked them to think about how we've talked about making predictions in the past. And we ask students to answer these questions as a guide to help them identify whether the tool uses AI or not. And self-driving car uses a data set, right? It uses the routes that people have taken in the past, and it uses that data to make a prediction about how to get somewhere. And when you're teaching this to middle school students, feel free to have them make some guesses about the data set and the prediction. I'm just going quickly to get through this activity. This is an example of a not self-driving car. This one does not use AI, but it's nice to provide as a contrast case against a self-driving car. Here's one that is a real noggin scratcher for students. It's automatic sliding doors. Do you guys think this uses AI? Great, no one's fooled here. The sliding doors uses a sensor, but sensors do not mean that AI is on board. A lot of our students do think, a lot of our middle school students do think that automatic doors use AI. Why do you think that might be, or how might you address that if you're trying to show them how AI might appear in their daily lives? What might you say to resolve that misconception? And you can feel free to unmute yourself and jump in or put it in the chat. Yeah, Suzanne adds, they're confusing automation with AI. Yes. And they're also confusing sensors with AI. That's very common for middle school students to make. And one thing that's been helpful for us is to talk to students about what it would take, what you would add, or what abilities would this door have if it did have AI. And that contrast case helps students notice, oh, AI isn't on board our normal doors that we use to enter the grocery stores, but if it had AI, it would probably have something that allowed it to access a data set. It might have a computer. The computer will have a learning algorithm, and it might make predictions. What predictions might it make? It might make predictions about whether someone has permission to enter the building. It might do a facial scan to decide who can enter the building or not. It might make predictions about whether it should stay open or closed and learn to do that depending on the weather that its sensors pick up, things like that. But this is a lovely conversation to have with your students. It really gets people. I'm still learning why, but this is a good one. What about Instagram filters? Does this use AI? We've got some no's. Suzanne's not sure. All right, well, let's go back to the guiding questions. Let's ask ourselves, does it have a data set? What would its data set be? Yeah, it uses the images that it captures from your face as data. Corey's building it. Thank you, Corey. Yeah. And you guys are jumping ahead. That's great. The prediction would be where to put the elements of the images. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Exactly. So it uses the examples of faces, and it makes a prediction about where to put the filter on your face. So that is an example of artificial intelligence that students probably use every day. So I'd like to take a moment to let you think through what I just modeled. It was a very fast lesson on how we introduce artificial intelligence to our students. And I'd love you to take a minute to think about how you would introduce AI to your students, maybe using some of the strategies I just modeled or maybe changing it a little bit. I'm going to just play around with breakout rooms and see if I can do it. Yes, it looks like I can. I'm just going to put you in the rooms for just 5 minutes to talk about some ideas. Can you guys see the breakout rooms? Maybe Corey, are you familiar with how to use breakout rooms? Okay, everybody just wanted breakout rooms. Okay, great, great. Hello, welcome. I've just sent people into breakout rooms. Let me see if I can send you there. Hi, Jenny. I just sent people to breakout rooms to chat about how you might introduce AI to your students. Hi, Suzanne. We just sent people to breakout rooms. Oh, okay, great. Hi, Lisa. I just sent people to breakout rooms to answer this question on the shared screen. How would you introduce AI to your students? So I think you can join a breakout room if you can see one. Hi, Jason. Oh, you were in a breakout room by yourself. Okay. Yeah, sorry about the trouble. This is my first time using them, so I'm not sure. Seems like it's going all right. Hi, Rosalie. How did that go? Oh dear. Okay, that sounds like that did not work. All right. Well, did your breakout room end, or did you leave? Oh, okay. Oh, great. It looks like everybody's back. Okay, well, I'm so sorry about that, everybody. I think I might have made a mistake. But feel free to put questions in the chat. What I hope was that you guys had a chance to talk a little bit about how you might introduce AI to your student. Oh, that's great, Rachel. I'm glad to hear you had a good conversation. first time using a breakout room in this session, so my apologies if that was a short conversation. Feel free to put in the chat some of the ideas you discussed. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about how you might introduce AI to your students. And thanks, Corey, for guiding us through this. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to talk briefly as you guys are putting some thoughts. Oh, question from Rachel. Yep. Rachel asks, what did you say about the Instagram filter using AI? Let me go back to that. So we mostly just guide students through this as an example of how to practice talking about those 3 parts of machine learning. So we break it down earlier saying what a data set, a learning algorithm, a prediction is, but then we go right into practicing it. And we say that the data set uses examples of people's faces. Every time that you use Instagram to record the image of your face, it enters that into its data set. And then it uses, and there's also a preset large file of labeled data that Instagram uses to identify your facial features. And it uses that to make predictions about where to put the filters on your face. Mary asks, Mary adds from the conversation, we shared that you might ask students to look up articles that deal with AI and share those. Yes, I think at this stage when you're first introducing artificial intelligence to your students, just helping them realize how much artificial intelligence is around them and a part of their daily lives is huge. A lot of the students that I've had the chance to talk to about this and the teachers that I've interviewed share this understanding that people don't really know how pervasive AI is in our lives these days. So just helping them realize that it's a part of their daily life already is invaluable. It helps them start noticing it and then start to realize that they're curious about it and want to learn more. Yeah, I really want to build on what Erin's saying too. Helping students learn about AI in their lives can be really motivating for students to want to learn more about computer science. Yeah, because it makes it much more relevant to their daily life since AI is in things that they enjoy, like YouTube or file sharing. A lot of our students want to be YouTubers. So a big part of understanding how to be an effective YouTuber is understanding how content can be made in a way that's sensitive to recommender systems. Recommender systems recommend content that you might be interested in, and that uses an AI. So just trying to get a hook in to help students get interested, you can use some of these conversations about AI. Great questions. Thanks for the comments. So here are some topics that we cover in the daily curriculum. I just modeled briefly the what is AI activity. We do a lot more hands-on activity in this lesson, but I just wanted to give you a flavor of what we have in the curriculum. But we do try to talk about algorithms as something that is based on the subjective opinions of the people who write them, and I'll talk a little bit more about that too. But we have a few lessons that focus on ethics in AI. We also talk about AI core concepts, where we introduce students to some of the foundational systems and structures that make up AI systems, using playful hands-on activities. We work on giving students a chance to be creative with AI, where they learn how to make art and music and stories all collaboratively with AI tools. And then, of course, we also talk about how artificial intelligence might impact jobs and careers in the future. And we give students space to kind of dream and think about what that might look like for them. A lot of this content is designed to be ready for middle schoolers and help them think about what they love and who they are and how they see themselves. So a lot of this is really creating opportunities for students to explore their preferences and their identity. And that's how we really center artificial intelligence as something that you can use and think about designing with a mind for ethics in AI and an interest in figuring out who you are and developing your identity. So feel free to put questions in the chat about that. I wanted to ask you which of these topics would you want to bring to your students? Is there anything that you're seeing listed here on this slide that you would be excited to learn more about, or you think you might want to bring into your classroom? Suzanne says ethics. Yes, ethics is not just invaluable to society for students to start to think about at an early age, but it also helps students get a sense of agency as designers. Thinking about bias is a way to give students some language early on to think about what AI is doing and how you might design things using some of the computer science skills that they're learning. Let's check the chat. I'm also seeing Rachel sharing that on Monday this week. Oh, this coming Monday, you're going over ethics with a few examples of bias in AI. That's so exciting, Rachel. I'd love to hear more about that. Definitely send me an email. Lisa says deep fakes. I've covered this a bit, and my students view images on the sites. Yeah, that cat does not exist, and this person does not exist. They are amazed by how AI can be used to create images. Yes, yes. And Joe writes, from a computer science advocacy role, I'm particularly interested in the AI career futures and therefore getting kids interested in studying CS. Yes, so we talk a little bit about that. One thing I want to make sure is clear is when we do talk about career futures, we make sure that we're coming at that topic from the students' perspectives. We start actually with this career daydream, which is a meditation. You guys can do this. You don't need our materials to do this. Just ask your kids to sit back and relax and think about what they imagine their career being like 30 years from there, 30 years from now. And as they dream or imagine, they can draw, or they can create storyboards if you want. Some students really like that tactile activity. But your goal here is to have the ideas about their future come from them, right? So it's certainly going to become something where you're asking questions about, what technology are you using? How do you get to work? What is your phone or your wristwatch look like? Or what do you do for fun after work? These kinds of questions help students start thinking about what technology might look like and how AI might play a role in their future career. But we start by just asking them to think about what careers they're interested in. Sometimes that's so powerful because students might not always get a chance at such a young age to start thinking about what careers they're interested in. But at the middle school age is a powerful time for them to be doing that because they start making decisions about what they want to do with their lives as early as middle school, as early as 6th or 7th grade. All right, so let's start talking a little bit about some of the other topics you're bringing up. So how, I'm going to skip this question actually for the sake of time, but I would love to hear in the chat, how would you teach these topics to your middle school students? But I'd like to go ahead to talk a little bit about how we're seeing already some middle school educators are bringing AI instruction to their classrooms. I'll start by talking about computer science classrooms and share some of the themes and patterns we're noticing pedagogically and in terms of tools, but I'll also talk about non-computer science classrooms as well. So before I talk about each of these themes that's listed on my screen, I just want to be clear that these themes are coming, or these patterns in pedagogy and tools are coming from interviews that we've conducted with teachers in Florida and Virginia and Chicago between 2021 and 2022. And these were interviews that we conducted weekly or semi-weekly. And the reason I'm saying that is because I just want to provide some context for where teachers are using some of these strategies. A lot of these teachers were using in-person strategies, but I would say about half of them were still hybrid or occasionally teaching virtual as well. So feel free to ask questions about the context where these strategies were used in the chat. Oh, and I just noticed Corey shared openai.com DALL-E with middle school girls last week, had a really good conversations about ethics. Yes, I think that's a powerful tool, and DALL-E is great. There's another tool, I'll put this in the list later, in the notes later. It's from, I think it's from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'll put it in the chat, but it uses a generative adversarial network to convert your face into contemporary or ancient art. And that is a very powerful tool to talk about because the data set only has certain demographics represented who were involved in the painting. yeah, or the sculpture or the mosaic. So you notice that your students might see that their gender or their racial ethnicity is shifted when it's turned into a painting. And that's an important thing to talk about because it's an opportunity to talk about bias in your data set and how that your student might not be represented in the data set. And you can then move on to talk about some implications. So anyway, DALL-E and these GANs that turn your face into a piece of art are a great place to start talking about ethics in AI. Yeah, I'll put that link in the chat. Thanks, Corey. So one thing that I just want to share from these themes that we've noticed is that computer science teachers that we've interviewed are really focusing on vocabulary, and they're taking time to talk about writing algorithms. So we're noticing computer science teachers are doing things like acting out the directions for writing an algorithm, the making a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and then acting out how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich following the algorithm your students write is very popular. Computer science teachers tend to give a lot of feedback to their students, helping them understand how to write an algorithm or use another tool correctly. And we've noticed that they've started also doing more culturally responsive and sustaining pedagogical moves, like asking students to share recipes that they make at home with their family and turning those recipes into an algorithm, or sharing directions that they would do for another daily activity and then slowly converting that into an algorithm. So those are great practices. We've noticed that computer science teachers are, when they're teaching artificial intelligence or machine learning, usually start with the hands-on activities before moving to computers. That might help overcome some of the barriers that Emmanuel Sanchez was talking about earlier at a previous talk, where we noticed that students, if they struggle with writing, removing that barrier early on so that the students can experience the AI system or structure first before they do anything involving writing or coding. And then computer science teachers also, of course, bring in a lot of tech tools. But if you look at that from, like, what does that look like in a curriculum? Like, what do these strategies look like? Here's one of the progressions of the lessons that we use in daily. We start with this lesson that you just saw me walk through very quickly called What is AI? But then we follow that with this lesson where we focus on algorithms as opinions. And we have students write a recipe for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but we frame it from the perspective of design a PB&J recipe that's the best. And later we start interrogating that and thinking about what makes it the best. And you learn that as people try to optimize their algorithms, they're optimizing it for particular values or for particular stakeholders. This is a vocabulary word we come back to again and again. And with that word, stakeholders, or optimizing for stakeholders, we then have them start doing something called the ethical matrix, which is the next lesson in our curriculum, where we actually have students list off stakeholders and their values and start mapping out whose values are met by their algorithm and whose values are left out. And that then informs an investigation where we go online and start looking at AI-informed tools like Google image search. And we start searching for words or translating phrases that let us see some of the ways that AI is used, and start really looking at how the AI is making predictions that are a little bit biased. Maybe they're biased because those algorithms that are forming those tools were designed or optimized for certain stakeholders and not others. So the curriculum affords this conversation about what is bias and how people might be optimizing for certain stakeholders. That's part of the ethical theme in our curriculum, but what we're hoping is that this is something that you might use in your classroom to seed conversations, not just about artificial intelligence, but about ethics. And what we've noticed is when you bring this into computer science classrooms, computer science teachers spend a lot of time on algorithms. If you bring this into non-computer science classrooms, teachers talk a lot about the purpose and utility of tools. They make connections to everyday life, and they focus on societal implications. So they're going to spend a lot of time looking at investigating bias. And I'm not saying either of these methods are better or worse, but we're just noticing that the computer science teachers and non-computer science teachers have pedagogical moves that inform each other. And we think there's a great opportunity for collaboration. I'm just going to close by highlighting a few activities that computer science teachers and non-computer science teachers have found really useful and fun, but in very different ways. One is Teachable Machine, which some of you guys heard mentioned in other talks. Teachable Machine is created by Google, and you can go to this website and upload images or use your video camera to give it data right away that you can start using as training data to start training an AI to classify images. And students in science classes have enjoyed using this, not necessarily to learn about AI, but to learn how to classify different observations they're making in their science class. So one of our science teachers used Teachable Machines to start classifying whether or not something the students were observing was a eukaryote, or observing whether or not something was different types of species. And in an English class, they were using it for different types of emotions or character expression. Notice that in those contexts, they're not, the teachers aren't really teaching how AI works, but they're showing how they're using AI to achieve some of the learning objectives in their class. So my point here is just to say that the integration that is in the title of this talk is something that we're not seeing happen. We're not seeing happen as a means of content area teachers in science or English or social studies teaching AI. Instead, they're being very straightforward and upfront about the fact that they're using AI tools to help students explore the content that is key in their subject core area. We've also brought neural networks into English classrooms. We do neural networks by having students act out the different components of a neural network, where we have a input layer, hidden layers, and an output layer, and students pass information on cards through the network and experience how the network gets updated. Some English teachers and civics teachers have tried this to identify characters, or see how student predictions about themes compared to the predictions that were made by a neural network. But I wouldn't say this is a super successful example of an English class being able to achieve its learning objectives. Although, it was fun to do. We also have some activities that further along in the curriculum where students get to generate stories using an AI. And this has been a really fun activity to bring into English classrooms. Again, not because the English class is actually teaching students how to use AI, although you could introduce it with the introductory lesson that I just modeled, but English classes actually benefit from using tools where an AI is generating text, a sentence, a paragraph, and then students take that paragraph and rework it, rewrite it. And I'll put this resource in the notes, but this is a tool that we built in-house that allows students to use, click on one of these text corpus, and then use that as seed text to generate new text in the voice of Dr. Seuss or Captain Picard or Ernest Hemingway. And then they take that AI generated text and they re-edit it using some of their skills in grammar or punctuation. And we found that that's useful for teachers to help students practice 21st century skills where you're actually not the person who's writing the first draft of your text. You could have an AI do it, but then how do you take what the AI has made, which is, it doesn't have topic sentences, it doesn't have evidence-based examples, and it doesn't have your concluding sentence. So how do you take this text that was generated by an AI and meet those essay standards for writing that you have in English classes? I'm up against the clock here, so I'm going to stop here and close by saying feel free to check out these slides. There's links inside where we do talk a little bit about how you can use misinformation lessons in social studies. And I've summarized some of the pedagogical moves that teachers have used. Not to say that one are better than the other. These are just patterns that we've noticed. And we hope that it shows an opportunity for non-CS teachers to learn a little bit from CS teachers, and CS teachers to see a benefit of learning from non-CS teachers, and hopefully inspire a reason for collaborating. One thing that would be wonderful is if, you know, CS teachers can seed an introduction to what is AI, and then the non-CS teachers can start using AI in their classrooms, knowing that the CS teachers have introduced these concepts so students understand the tools they're using when they're using them in their subject areas. Some highlights that I won't go into now, but students love exploring AI. There's some tools like Quick Draw that let students interact with AI and see how it makes guesses and predictions. Students love investigating bias. They love playing with Teachable Machine, and you guys noticed in the chat, they love identifying deep fakes. So because I'm up against the clock, feel free to share this in upcoming conversations. I'd love to hear more about what you're interested in trying in your classroom, but I'm going to stop here and open it up for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kate. What a great session. I'm just buzzing with excitement. If anybody has a question and wants to come on stage to ask it, you'll click that purple share video and audio, or you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. Kate, do you see the question from Rochelle?
Yes, thanks for so much. I read Rochelle saying you referred to a curriculum. What curriculum are you using? Okay, so this is called the daily curriculum. Let me pull it up for you. Should have had this at the top. There's a link to the curriculum and materials that I've been walking through. I said at the top that this is something that we are really excited about. It's open source. Feel free to use it in your classroom tomorrow. But we do have updated material. We've revised as we've interviewed teachers as they're using the material in their classroom, and we've made modifications. We have updated lesson plans. So if you're interested, feel free to send me an email and I'd be happy to share. Of course. Thanks, Michelle.
All right. Well, if you don't have questions, I'm just here to once again thank Kate so much for your time and energy today. The whole Midwest is Best team is grateful. And then to let folks know that the next unconference session starts at 30 minutes. So I'm on Central Time. That'll be 12:30. If you're on Eastern Time, it would be 1:30. And there are 4 different unconference rooms. So if you click the sessions button on the left-hand side of your screen at 25 after the hour, they will open up. So feel free to stand up and take a break. Thanks again, Kate. We so appreciate your time today.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate you. It's been a blast. Thanks for all your questions and being so engaged in this. I hope these materials are useful. Have a great rest of the conference. I'll see you there.